Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Dan.
This
Stone.
is Dexter from The Offspring.
Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is David Lab.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick
I'm
Gillette.
Christopher
This is
Knopf.
Dr. Bob Greenberg.
I'm Laird Hamilton.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, I'm Mark Valley.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hey, this is Loren Tarquinio. I'm a writer and part-time goofball, and I'm here talking to Pete on the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero, Mark Valley, and Pete A. Turner.
So cool. We're at our Toluca Lake remote studio at Paty's. Trying to get them to follow me back on Twitter.
I know, and they're not following you back?
Well, I don't know. I just followed them today, so I gotta
you got to give them a little bit of time.
Yeah, I got to give them a little time to get used to it.
It's Paty's, man. They're very selective with who they follow.
They are.
back.
They hardly follow anybody.
They want they want all the followers. They're not going to follow you back.
No, and nobody follows them. That's the funny thing.
Oh,
It's like
right.
less than 200 of us.
Right, they're not budging either way.
Yeah. Loren is the husband of a former guest on the show, Anna Vocino, and they both are in the show industry. You do some voice acting, you do some writing,
I do a little bit of voice. I did, I guess like everybody does a little bit of everything. I'm mostly a writer by trade. I started as an actor way early on, so I have a little bit of that I still do. Not much, but mostly writing, a little bit of directing, and so that's my kind of jam.
That's my jam.
Yeah.
How busy do you have to stay to be? Because you're not assigned to or working with a major studio, right? This is what people don't understand about this industry: is that you can make a good living doing a lot of different things, whether you're directing commercials or other things. How busy do you have to keep yourself in connecting in town to get enough work so that you can?
I don't know. I think it's different for everybody. I mean, for me, it's kind of like you always want to be like pursuing stuff. It's like it seems like everybody in this industry is like a hired gun. Like some are very well paid, so that they can afford to maybe work less or work selectively on things. But I'm always trying to like, it seems like I'm always looking for gigs. Yeah. So it's kind of like that's part of the job. Right. It's like just to put yourself out there, make contacts, follow up with people, do things like that. Where it's like there's a lot of creative stuff going on, but there's the other hat you have to wear of like trying to just be on the radars is like a big part of it.
Oh, I wish I would have seen you 2 months ago. I had something for you.
And you're like,
dude, why didn't you call me?
Totally. You're like, oh, I should have called you. I'm like, well, why didn't you? Dick. It's like, I'm here. It happens all the time.
And
and it's same for me, where I'm like, oh, I wish I should have called them for something. Where it's like, I'm working on something, I could have used help or whatever. And then like, it's just, it's just not like promoting yourself, but just being on radars of people.
Yeah, being available, being top of mind.
Because it's so much about connections and people. Yeah. Most of the work I've gotten has been through just like people I know, repeat work, that kind of thing. I think that's a lot true for a lot of folks.
The show we put up today is a sound engineer, mixer, producer, music guy named the Wesinator. He's an English guy.
Shout out to Wesinator.
Yeah, no, and Wes Maybe is a super cool dude. You would love him. But he's mixed for Sting.
Oh, cool.
Which means you can mix for Shaka Khan, which means you can mix for Celine Dion.
Right.
So you kind of build this body of work where you are someone they're like, I got a project. This is really going to be challenging.
Right.
And you can become specialized like that, where like you're the high-end, complicated tightrope walker guy who always makes it,
Yeah. You can carve out a niche for yourself.
They just live next door to the studio, and they're like, well, Hal's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of
things. That inconvenience is a big part of it. It's like, well, we just know this person. We'll just call them again. They've done it once.
Yeah.
It's like less, if you can make it easier and people, they'll work with you because if you're just easy to work with, they like you, they'll have you back. It's just easier for them.
Yeah.
Like they don't have to go out and vet people or find another, whatever. So
how tight is your circle? I mean, when you have something you want to do, obviously you're like, oh, I know I'm going to call Debbie and Chris and Parker and Hunter. I'm going to call these because I always call those people. I know those are people. I'm just making
Yeah. No, I do call Debbie and Chris and Parker. That's my people. How'd you know that? Debbie's great.
I do my research.
I love Debbie.
She is. No. But how hard is it for you to let somebody new in, who's going to take over something because Debbie or Parker or Chris are busy?
Well, I guess it depends on, like, if I ever have the opportunity to, like, bring people in, which is, like, for me, a lot of the work I do is, like, I'm the one being brought in. So I don't have a lot of those opportunities where I'm the one helming the thing.
Yeah.
I want to do more of that, and I'm working to do that. But it's like I've been the one who is usually brought in on stuff.
Yeah.
I do have people where it's like we'll collaborate on things. A lot of writers and, like, directors and stuff will you have an inner circle of people you want to collaborate with where it's
Right.
like, hey, I'm working on this thing. Can I send it to you? Give me some notes, or what are your thoughts on this? And a lot of people do that with like a few tight people that like, you just trust and you want to run stuff by them. And there's a lot of that stuff.
Right.
Where it's like peer stuff, like, hey, what do you think about this idea? Or can you just read this? Is this any good? You
Right.
know? And you have a lot of people have circles like that, and those are pretty tight.
You must have a requirement to go out and shop ideas around. Just one, to flex that muscle. Two, because you've got a good idea. But three, also, so you're in front of the studios and they may not even care about that idea, but they're like, you know what? That guy Loren, you want to be able to be pullable for them, their minds. Like,
well, that's definitely a hope. I just took a pitch out a week and a half ago, and I just did that. Where it was like I went for you go for the whole week, and you pitch a bunch of places, and then you hopefully you create a bidding or you sell something.
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely think about like, well, maybe it's not this project, but like part of the job too is like I'm meeting these people and re-meeting them, or you're trying to make an impression, or just making a contact, and that's definitely part of it too.
I used to work in Iraq and Afghanistan a whole lot and get shot at all the time.
Oh,
and everything.
wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So Toluca Lake's right at home for you then.
Totally. It's like normal over
It's
here.
like little Afghanistan.
Yeah. But when I came back, it was really hard. It was impossible. I didn't find a job. No one could understand how to hire me, even though my skills directly translated. It just
seems like that would be more in demand. Like I don't know. Like seems like
yeah. Well, I mean, I had the ability to help people, but my network was all a bunch of warlords and evil people,
right?
Right. So I'm like, yeah, I know a guy that killed babies. Can I, can he vouch for me?
Right.
So
or if there's a killing babies need, like that's the go-to guy. Pete, get him on the horn.
Get him. That's the guy who can find us a baby killer. Pete
I ain't doing it myself. I ain't dirtying my hands with that. Get Pete.
So the thing about this is I had to become a handyman, and I'm not terribly handy, but I am good at working with people and interacting. So when like the mom is like, I have all these things I'm trying to manage in this big old household. I need to take care of this. I'm freaking out. Or the couple that's moving, or the office manager that's trying to get 15 desks built because someone just invented this problem for her. I could come and say, I don't want you to worry about that. Worry about 100 other things, but don't worry about this. And that enabled me to get a lot of work.
Right.
Not that I was great at handy, because I wasn't. I'm still not very.
Well, you kind of like reinvented yourself a little bit.
Had to.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing for a lot of people. Like you kind of have to just kind of adapt and find different angles in with stuff.
How do you suss out where you put your energy then? Voiceover acting, writing, directing. I
think a lot of it is basically some of it's like what kind of most excites you at that time. Like if I have a project brewing in my mind where I really want to develop it, and that's just like I can't help but not think about that, then I'll just kind of go where I'm most lit up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Okay.
Now, of course, if somebody hires me for something and it's work, I'm like, you got to go with the work.
100%,
of course.
right.
So that's part of it too. Like, it's like, oh, I got hired. That's why I'm doing this gig. So of course, but it's more like what's kind of lighting you up at the moment. So I generally find like that leads me to the next thing. Like, oh, I'm excited to do this, and I do that, and I'm like, oh, I'm working on it, and that leads to this, and I didn't think about that, and then like this person's involved, so it's like a whole thing of kind of following your highest excitement, I guess. Thank you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You're going to go either where the money is or where the inspiration is.
Yeah. Right. Try to be. Of course, like you want to be super busy. Of course, I've had time for I'm not busy, and then you gotta like that's the challenge of like, okay, what am I gonna do when I'm not busy? Like I gotta make myself do something that I'm excited to do and keep flexing the muscles.
I wanted to ask you a little bit. One of the things about being a handyman is you didn't know what you were walking into each job. You've got some young college girl, first job, and she's like, I got to paint a wall. How big's the wall? I really don't know. And I'm like,
it's
what?
Wall size.
Yeah, it's wall sized. And my job is not to have her do it. My job is to figure it out. So if I go to her and I say, take out a tape measure, so I would, if I had that measure, I'd just say, stick your arms as wide as you can. And then tell me how many of you across that is. Okay, hey, that's close enough for what I need,
Yeah.
And that's if I needed that much detail. Right now in my backyard, we have a tough shed that we want to move about 40 feet. And my handyman brain goes on and goes, yeah, okay, I can move that thing. And then when I ask my friends, they're like, oh, it's easy. You put it on a thing and you roll it. I'm like, how do you get it off the ground? It's got a window. It's a frame. You can't just lift it on one corner, and it weighs probably 1,500 pounds.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to get under it. And
that's a tiny house.
Yeah.
You ever see those tiny houses?
You literally could live in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then they go, oh, yeah, that's right. I'm like, and then you got to put it down. And that's like where the details come in. Like, how do you take someone's property, in this case, my own property, but how do you take someone's property and safely get it up off the ground? Yeah, everybody can roll it on some pipe, you know?
Yeah.
But then you have to put it back down in a way that makes sense that thing is as good of condition.
It survived the trip.
Right. So in my handyman days, if someone hired me, I'd say, yep, I'll do it. And I would figure it out. I don't know. It'd be like, you're going to pay me and I'm going to have to figure it out and it's going to cost this. But I would take it on having never done it before.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Apply that to your work.
Oh, totally, man. I mean, like, most of this is like, you know, you come into every gig is different kind of thing.
Yeah.
Every creative thing is different. Different people, different ideas, what are projects. But like half the time I go into stuff and I'm like, I got no ideas.
I love
got
it.
Nothing.
Yes.
And there's so many times where I'm like, I think to myself, they should not have hired me. I'm the wrong person for this job.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would tell people, I'm like, I don't think I'm the right guy for this. I'm like, no, you're fine. You can. I'm like, all right. But then you just know that, like, I wouldn't say that a lot, but in my mind, I'd be thinking that. But like, so you just go in and be like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have any ideas. I don't have any angles on this.
Yeah.
But I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Or at least I'll fake my way enough through it to get some kind of inspiration so I can throw something back at them and at least be like, look like I knew what I was. And a lot of times they don't know what they want either.
Right.
They're like, well, it's, you know, they advert, you know what I mean? It's, we want something, it's got to be funny, it's got to be like this, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you got to like, so they don't know either sometimes. So there's a little bit of leeway on both sides and you're kind of finding it together.
Yeah.
But totally, of like, I don't know, you know, I'm a fraud. I shouldn't be doing this.
Do you do any kind of discovery with your client too? Do you say, like, I would say, well, you can have fast, you can have just get it done, you can have quality, you can have detail, you can have cheap, you can have expensive, but you can't have fast, cheap, and quality. Yeah. Those three things don't go together.
Yeah, you know, depending on the project, if I'm working on like a short form commercial thing where it's like they need something like by tomorrow, just some ideas. I'm like, okay, well, they're understanding of like, I can give you what I can in, you know, less than 24 hours. And they're like, okay, then they know that they're not giving you much. Most people are cool about it.
Yeah.
Unless they give you like 2 weeks or something and then like they're paying you a decent amount of money, then you don't have a lot of excuses. It's like, somewhere you can find a little bit of wiggle room where it's like, you guys only gave me, you know, a day. Here's what I can do. And they're mostly pretty grateful for stuff like that.
Right.
They're realistic with what they're, you know, if they're giving you limitations, then they're okay with that usually.
When you do get something that is just, it's not what you thought it was going to be. It's not that you can't overcome the barriers, but there are just enough barriers that you've got to grab the phone and say, here's our challenge list. You know, do you have those kind of things in your work where like, hey, client, this is what we're coming up against?
Yeah, sure, certainly. I'm trying to think if there's a specific example. I mean, I worked on this show about a year ago for Nat Geo. It was like a kind of a 1 hour thing. I don't really do a lot of that stuff, and I was on it, and it was like one of these things was just wasn't really run well. It was a really kind of going off the rails a lot. So there was a lot of like, okay, we need to like breaking things down, stopping, getting in front of like the execs or or people who were running the production company and be like, here's our challenges, and this is what we need to work on or to somehow overcome. I think it's just a lot of like keeping things, communicating a lot, and just really being upfront about stuff that your challenges you're running into. Be like, here's my deal. Yeah, like, here's the problem. Like. And then you want to make it collaborative, especially in this business where everything is so collaborative that like you find that like you're never alone. You're not an island a lot. You have people to reach out to. You have resources to where like, here's the problem. Let's find this together. You know, we're all on the same boat. We want the same thing.
Yeah. I one time was drilling into a wall and I hit something weird and I couldn't figure out what it was, but it was a problem because I didn't know what it was. I didn't want to damage anything. Turned out it was a dead cat. And sometimes there's just a dead cat behind the wall.
You know what? Sometimes you run into a dead cat.
Right. And it's just weird. And you're like,
who plans for that?
Yeah, what happened today? And a lot of that, and in this case, it was overcome with budget. She's like, whatever that is, get that out of my wall. And I'm like, that's going to cost you more money. That's not a problem. You know, and you get the budget approval to do things. Sure. I mean, Steven Spielberg just makes problems disappear by saying, I'm Steven Spielberg. I have the money.
Yeah.
Go fix this.
He just tells problems, I'm Steven Spielberg.
Right.
Go away, problem. And they usually do. Even problems listen to Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, they got a guy who just handles that.
Sure.
He's got a pack of wolves.
Yeah.
It's not just a wolf.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, there's always something that comes. There's always a dead cat that comes up in like every project where no one can foresee something. So,
Right.
I mean, what are you going to do? You roll with shit.
yeah. What's a mistake look like for a director? It doesn't have to be specific to you, but just like when you're like, there's just no way I could have avoided this, but it's absolutely fucked up.
Well, again, I don't do a ton of directing. I've done some, but I do know. I guess I know a lot of director friends, and I've worked with a ton as a writer. So I think I think a lot of it is like choices you make early on to where that you can't change it once casting choices are a thing. It's like once you're in it, you kind of can't change that. You can't right that ship. You're in it, so you have to make things kind of work that way. Like decisions that are made like early on, like that you just find like you can't change them once you're in it.
Yeah.
Budget kind of things, like where to allocate money, like where I'd rather put more money, less money here and more money here. And maybe you find that like you're trying to find that balance as you go, things like that.
What about as a writer? What do the errors look like there?
The good thing about writing is it's so fluid that like everything can change up until like the minute the camera rolls. So it's like you can write so many drafts, and even when you're rolling and you're on the set, and you could just make a change right then and there. Like this whole scene isn't working. Hold on, let me just do a bunch of writes. Let me just work on this right now, or let me just find that you can like add things as you're going. I think there's a little, unless it's like something major where it's like, oh my god, this is like, and then you really can't. You're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
But if there's something in the moment that could be better or tweaked or punched, you can always have that ability. Right up until you roll things, and you have multiple takes, you can do things. So the leading up to that is you have so much time with a script usually that you can write and rewrite and cover a lot of that before you get into the camera rolling stuff.
And then when you're writing, I'm assuming it's a collaborative process with people that you're used to, or are you oftentimes put in a room with people you don't know?
Depends. A lot of time it's depending on the project. Sometimes you're in a room and you don't know a lot of the people, but you get to know them,
right?
And sometimes it's ideal, sometimes it's not. But again, you just have to do your best. Yeah, it's like doing any kind of group thing. It's not all personalities are going to go great together. One
of the friends of our show is a guy named Hilliard Guess. He's a writer. I don't know if you know Hilliard, but he does really well. He's got his own show. You should probably go on it at some point. It's called the Screenwriters Rant Room.
Oh, yeah, cool.
And they talk about all facets of screenwriting, and they give out tons of game. You're just learning things about, yes, you're writing words on a page, but that's like the easiest part of the whole process.
That's the easiest part.
It's
everything that leads up to the words on the page.
Yeah.
And then when you see the words on the page, you're like, oh, this is kind of easy. It makes sense. It's funny. What? Yeah, it doesn't seem that hard. But there's usually so many drafts that went into what you were seeing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing about the writing is it's so grindy sometimes, and you don't see the hard work that goes, on behind the scenes and the weeks and stuff and the drafts and the rooms and the breaking of the stories and that thing. That's the work.
When the writer storms out, like, oh, he's upset. Like, you know what? He gets to be upset.
Sure.
He's worked really hard to get this to this point. Let's give him a minute.
He's worked really hard to make this really mediocre at this point. We're going to, you know what I mean? And we've all done that. And there's a lot of especially if you're in a room or something where there's a lot of staring at whiteboards where it's like, what can we do with this second act or something? You're just staring and that's a lot of work too. Where it's like, hold on, I'm working, but it just looks like you're staring. It's like, I'm working it out.
Yeah, some of that working and looking is like, I'm going to think about nothing, and then you see what comes.
But a handyman, you're in there like getting your sleeves, you're rolling up your sleeves, getting your hands dirty, you're working. Writers can be like, I'm still looking at a blank screen for 2 hours. I've written 3 words, but that's work. I'm staring at this.
Let me tell you, there's plenty of times when this handyman has looked at a wall, mouth open.
Yeah,
we had to drill.
That's your blank screen, is that wall?
Totally. And you're trying to decide how do you accomplish this thing because the client says, make a TV go up on the wall. And your answer is to go, I have no idea how we're going to do this because the other side of this sheetrock, this isn't really a room. You guys know that, right? This is a bank vault.
Oh, right.
And the steel behind this, you ever see movies where they try to break into the vault? The guy's in there for 5 hours with oil and everything.
Ocean's 11?
Yeah,
exactly. It's kind of like that.
I've got to try to mount a TV to that. So as long as you get that, and then they're like, oh, yeah, that is hard.
Right.
But there's a whole lot of, let's try this and see what happens.
Sure.
Let's try this.
I think that's any kind of process of creating anything.
Right.
Art, mounting a TV while building a tiny house, whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's like you're just figuring shit out as you do it.
Yeah. One of the things that Hilliard talks about, too, is becoming not Daniel Day-Lewis becoming, but becoming the characters. I got to get to know these guys. So I'll write, but I don't know them yet. Mm-hmm. And then over time, I'll understand who they are and they'll speak to me.
Yeah.
And I channel that and I write it out.
Yeah.
Do you do something like that or?
Yeah. I mean, I have an acting background, so that helps in terms of like.
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
It helps me a lot with like dialogue, or because I can say stuff out loud and kind of see the scene or kind of play it in my head or something. And then like in terms of like the channeling, I think it's like everybody gets to the point where like you get to a point in any kind of project where you feel like you're in the zone kind of, and you feel like it's just flowing out of you.
Right.
In a way, to me, that feels like that's where like you're tapping into like whatever higher consciousness you have.
Yes.
And it's kind of working through you, and you feel like I'm just the secretary. I'm just like. It's few and far between when you can get there, but when you can, it's like that's usually when you've been in it for so long and you get to the point of like then I'm just channeling like the best parts of myself into this almost like the voices of the characters are speaking through you.
And then when you get to the set and you're watching the actors do it, do you ever go, that's better that way? You know, how they perceive it.
Oh, sure.
Because now they're bringing in the emotion.
Oh, yeah. That's the collaborative part where it's like you want to start with something, a good solid script, and when really great actors or funny actors get something, they're going to add something to it. Something you just never saw. Like, oh, that line's perfect, or oh, the way you did that thing, or that look, or whatever. Of course they're going to elevate it, and that's how it should be at every stage of the process.
Yeah, that's cool to hear. Yeah, my man Jeff, who sponsors the show, WeFixYourScript.com, he works on those kind of things. When he was talking to me about my script that I'm slowly making my way through, he said, you don't have to work so hard to describe everything.
Yeah.
You know, the director of photography, the director, the actors, these people are going to take what you write.
It's a blueprint is what you're doing. You're really just laying out a screenplay or anything. You know, it's not a novel.
Right.
You're just laying out enough to where I've colored the world. I see, you know what I mean? You know enough to like, okay, a good director can like enhance this, and they know what you're going for.
Yeah, and the thing
am I saying too much?
No, I think that's perfect because what I wanted to get, like, what your job as a writer is at least from what Jeff was kind of talking to me when he did my consult with me, was it's like 3 acts, 9 things happen in each act. You can play with those numbers, but that's like a basic format. And so then you have to achieve these specific things. Act 1, you have to establish the characters. In Act 2, there has to be a lesson, a transfer of knowledge, something like that that advances the story. Maybe you have to put in a MacGuffin to do something else. You've got to advance your plot line B and C if you have one. And then, you know, in the 3rd act, everything goes down, you know. And as he broke that stuff down, pretty simple process, I was able to go, oh, okay, yeah, all of these other things became extraneous. Yeah. And I got to get rid of them, and I was unburdened a lot.
Yeah.
How do you learn how to do that?
Gosh, you know, there's so many ways to do that. You can go to school, take classes for that. It's I think the best way to do it is just learn by doing. Yeah. You learn by just kind of writing stuff out and getting feedback and getting responses and getting knocked down a few pegs and be like, nah, this is all wrong. Yeah. Why are you putting this here? And you kind of learn as you go. And I don't think anybody's ever a total expert, but like even when we're little kids and we're telling stories, like if you're just making up a story to somebody, you know, once upon a time, you kind of instinctively know in stories where to take stuff. You're like, okay, I've been talking for a while, something needs to happen. So then something happens. Yes. And then that happens. And you're like a little kid and you're doing this. And then like, okay, now I got to resolve this. How am I you got to bring it back to something. I think all of us instinctively know kind of like main beats like that. You know what I mean? And then and then it's just a matter of like remembering that and then applying that to your story now. Of like, what's your main want? Usually that's good with characters is like, what's this character's want? What does he want? Know that clearly. Say
Yeah.
it in your script, and then what's in his way. You know what I mean? And then that's the whole
Simplify
that, just
those
simplify for me because I can't think of I have to keep things simple. I'm not that smart. I have to be like
The hire
I
you is
can't-
on vacation.
I can't. Yeah, I can't think of like okay, by page 47, the all is lost moment has to happen here, and I don't
Right.
think I have to think just story and what's organically taking me in these moments. And if I know my characters enough, they're going to lead me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's that. You're right. There's like a familiarity to how a story flows.
Sure.
And you can play with that, but it's like with music. I know what the next note should be.
Yeah,
I
you
didn't
just
write this
instinctively
thing.
kind of have
Right.
that, and I think a lot of us do, whether we know it or not.
The other thing about the writing process I've learned is that it's really demanding, much more so
Sure.
than one person can typically
Yeah.
pull off. I was sitting in. Jay Moore had Edward Solomon on his show.
Okay.
And for those that don't know, Edward Solomon has written everything. Men in Black was one of the movies he wrote.
Yeah.
He was one of the writers on X-Men, and then there was like a writer fight, and then him and some other writers like, we're
A
out.
writer's strike or
Just a fight. Just
oh,
like
between the two of them, a creative difference kind of thing.
yeah, but within the movie itself. And so those
Okay.
guys were like, I don't want your stupid credit. He's like, it's the one big mistake of my movie, my
Oh,
career.
wow.
The money for sure, but the bigger mistake was my ego got in the way of something that I do normally anyhow,
Yeah.
because on a movie of that scale, you will not be the only writer most of the time.
Most of the time, you're right. There's so many writers, and there's a lot of screenwriters. I know a few people who do the script doctoring kind of thing, and it's a really kind of great job when you can get it.
Yeah.
Most movies go through some kind of rewrite process where they just bring another writer on. They'll do a pass, and they'll do a pass. You know what I mean? A lot of those guys don't get credit unless they completely change it, but that's very common.
Yeah.
Hugely common,
And
even
there's-
with big movies and name people.
right. So even at the highest level, it's a group process.
You're getting rewritten a lot. And
Right.
You're getting
Yeah.
yeah.
Even if your idea is gone, but let's say you write a movie that's going to get picked up by a major studio, and there's 8 words left. It was your idea
Totally.
that got people to
Absolutely.
the starting point.
Every writer has gone through some version of that.
Yeah.
And you just have to learn to it's just part of it. You're going to get rewritten. You're going to get changed.
That's not good. Give me more than that, though. I mean, yes, you have to get over it, but we've poured our heart and soul into
Sure.
this thing. We've got them to say yes, like arms in the air, and they're like, but ultimately, we want Johnny Bravo, not the rest of the Brady kids,
Right.
So how do you get over that, though?
I mean, hopefully if it's like a big, what helps is like if it's a big project that's a high profile, there's money to help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That eases a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Look, if your name is still on it, that's great too.
Yeah.
And just also knowing that that's just the process, man.
Yeah.
Nobody just writes something. One person is like, there, it's ready to go. Shoot this. Film it. Like that just doesn't happen. Even in TV,
Yeah.
which I know more of. It's like that's usually like a thing where like if you get assigned an episode on a show, it's like okay, go and write it.
Right.
Then you come back and like usually you'll have like room punch ups or like an upper level writer, showrunner
Sure.
will take their pass at it. You may be left with like a third of what you did,
Yeah.
which is so common. So
Yeah.
it's like, and your name's still going to be on it, but like. You know what I mean? It's just you can't fight that. You're not
Right.
gonna. What are you gonna do? You're gonna die. You're gonna die on every hill for
Yeah.
everything that you.
Right,
You know what I
yes.
mean? You're not.
Yeah.
You're just.
I'll
Although you can
never
fight.
do
You can
another one
fight
of
for
these.
things. I've fought for things where like I don't think you should change it. I think, and here's what you can
Yeah.
make your case. And ultimately, unless it's your show or your studio, you're not going to be the guy making that call.
Yeah. You got to write on Jimmy Kimmel's
Mhm.
show. What kind of things did you create for them?
Well, I did for them. My segment was I did a lot of the integrated bits for them, which was in terms of like if we had like a sponsor that came on, like then we have to think of a comedy bit for them. And
Yeah.
that gets worked into the show, and I did a ton of those. And that was we either do live bits with Jimmy in the show, or we do like a lot of pre-tape stuff. So
Yeah.
that's
Like the man on the street stuff was yours?
some man on the street stuff.
Okay.
You could work that. I didn't know. Man on the street was just like that'd be anybody's. That the arena anybody could like pitch an idea on, but
Right.
like sometimes if something I was working on worked for a man on the street bit, sure, I've done plenty of those.
Yeah. This is not really on topic, but I'm always curious about this. We have this negative perception of Americans' ability to know geography. Like Europeans know that where all 197 countries are.
Right.
Like, oh, well, of course they know where Moldova is. But I bet if you did a man on the street interview in any other nation, in any other continent,
Yeah.
they're going to be like, I have no fucking idea what Kansas City
Probably.
is.
Oh, sure.
Point to Michigan on the map. Oh, what?
Oh, yeah. I would agree with that. Sure. Yeah.
Why are we so hard on ourselves?
I don't know, because like a lot of I don't know, like geography is a thing that like I don't know, like there's probably a lot of people who don't know who couldn't point to Kansas City on a map, and we are in this country.
Yeah.
We
should do a man in the street where we say, I want you to identify which one of these 3 things is not a country. There's Tanzania,
right?
Tarquinio, or Tunisia.
Tarquinio or right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally. You could do that.
And you can do it anywhere. Like we got to get like. First off, does it matter if you know where Moldova is?
Of course not.
Or Azerbaijan?
We have Google.
Yeah.
That just takes care of everything. Like,
right.
why do you even need to know basic math anymore? You don't.
Right.
All the stuff we learned in school, useless now because of Google.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Useless now. Yeah, what are some other things that are useless, do you think? Cursive's useless, right?
Handwriting in general is useless. My handwriting is so poor.
Right.
That I can't even, it's just like, doctors would be like, that's bad, dude. I'm a doctor, but like.
Because you're not old anyway, but you're about my age. Did you ever have to start writing scripts out in pencil first and then transfer to typing?
No, it was mostly...
It was word processor?
Yeah.
Because that was...
I can't imagine how shows or things would operate back before like the internet or any kind of like script software. Or, I don't know how people did daily shows with just writing things on paper and then getting them approved or getting...
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
I don't know
think about like... penmanship mattered, and it would make people angry.
Right.
When
on Mad, when we watch Mad Men, where it's like, God, everything was like, I've been rewatching it again. It's like everything is written like on it's like in the 60s where everything's on paper.
It's crazy. When I went to spy school, I was one of the last I was one of the last iterations of cohorts that went through and we had to write out reports, and there's a lot of boilerplate that you have to just write out in pencil on paper. And it was like just half the test was just getting the boilerplate written out, just writing and writing. And you're like, why am I writing?
Handwriting stresses me out.
Yeah, so bad.
Because I'm just looking at my penmanship. It's bad. I can't. Yeah. Then I like to make things look nice aesthetically where it's like, this is just, I can't turn this in. They're going to think I'm a crazy person.
And then you're writing a report based on a conversation that you had. So you get through all of like the crap that you have to write. It doesn't even require any thought. The only thought is go slow. So the person proofing it doesn't get mad at you.
Yeah, but now how do you edit? You got to go back and cross things out or something, or
you could. That's why it was in pencil, because you couldn't write it in pen because then you couldn't.
Right. But even that seems like a pain in the ass.
Absolutely.
Geez.
Yeah, and literally like the next class or the class after that, like everybody's going to type on computers. This is in the mid '90s, by the way. This is not
it wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, like I typed I typed up my journalism final article drunk. By the way, right? Because once you write an article every day, it just becomes a muscle.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So when they're pounded that thing out of the word processor and printed it out, handed it in, you know, but you can't do that in the Army. They were just behind the times.
Right. Yeah. So handwriting's useless. Just so everybody knows.
Just so everybody knows.
There you go.
Pretty soon, language proficiency.
I mean, everything's emojis half the time. We're going back to like cave drawings.
Yeah,
totally. It's just like
hieroglyphics have come back. By the way, we're talking to Loren Tarquinio. Your Twitter is Loren Tarquinio.
At Loren Tarquinio.
And where else do you want people to go to hang out with you and see what you do?
I like Instagram's fun. Instagram? I think that's more fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
You and your wife do comedy together?
My wife and I do comedy together. We're doing like a dual stand-up act about our marriage. We've been married for 18 years.
Yeah.
And both of us are comedians. I'm more of a writer, but she's more of a performer. We both started to do stand-up a little bit on our own. And then we're like, wait a minute. We were kind of like writing each other's jokes because like we talk about marriage a lot. It's like, why don't we just do this together? Get up on stage together. I don't think anybody else is doing this.
Right.
And then have sort of a he said, she said, part stand-up, part storytelling, hybrid kind of show.
Oh, I think it's
about
hilarious.
Marriage, about about anything we want to talk about. And we've been doing this for not even quite a year, but it's going really well, and it's really fun.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, it's been pretty well received, too. We've been just starting to really get to the next level with stuff in terms of getting up there and stuff, but it's fun.
Yeah, Anna and I talked about, there was an article that I read, like the 18 things that indicate you're in an adult relationship, weird things that happen, like, when you're having sex and your brain is like, fuck, I gotta do the dishes. Oh, Jesus Christ, you know what?
Oh, sure.
And you're like, I try to
leave the TV on.
Right.
I want to watch TV.
100 things can distract you, you're like, this is, and that's all fodder for your guys' comedy.
Oh, sure, because everybody's been in either, whether you're married or not, or you've probably been in some kind of long-term relationship where you're just like, holy shit, how do you just keep this thing going?
Yeah.
How do you keep like this? How do you keep it fun? You know what I mean? That whole thing of like, there's a lot to mine there.
But you guys do work together a lot, though.
We are more now. I mean, we're both kind of like indie contractors in a way, so we're both at home a lot, so we can't help but like run stuff past each other or collaborate on things. We don't really work together like officially on jobs, but there's a lot of collaborating in the household. She'll read a lot of stuff that I put out. She'll run stuff by me a lot. You kind of have to.
She's got that great voice, and it's that's gotta. How do you not go to her as your go-to person for things that fit her easily?
Oh, I totally do.
Oh, you do?
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Even if I'm doing like a silly like voiceover audition, I'm like,
No,
it's okay.
I got
Okay.
so much tea.
I'm just sorry.
no worries.
No, you're good.
We're good.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, I will totally go to her for like, even if I'm doing like a voiceover audition for something, I'm like, you got to help me listen to this. What am I? Give me some direction here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, totally.
What does she bring to your ideas that you don't have?
You know, another set of eyes who sees things with the similar sensibility where it's like, you know, I'll run something by her and she'll be like, well, what about this? I'm like, oh yeah, I totally didn't see that. Like,
Right.
Or it's just like, you just generally want to like work with, you know, you want to have people weigh in on stuff that you trust their sensibility, you trust like their viewpoint on stuff, their intelligence and stuff. Somebody's always going to find something that you didn't necessarily see or can be better.
In your peer review group, do you have, because I know I have people like this, where their view is so contrary or opposed to yours.
Yeah, that
like
happens.
I'm just forced to go to them and say, I have to give this to you because you always see something. Even if we disagree, I have to run it through your filter.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't know that I would collaborate with anybody who's totally contrary from me. Usually
Right.
you have some kind of common ground. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
I mean, you
Where
do have
it's
some
like,
commonalities
but of course
somewhere.
not every choice you make is going to be like, of course it's never that way where someone's going to be like, oh, I don't have any notes. It's great. Like,
Yeah.
to be like, why this whole, I don't know. I don't like this character. Why is that?
Yeah.
You know, they're going to get some kind of pushback from someone.
Right.
And that's always good. I like that. I'm like, fight. Tell me why.
Yeah.
Get in there and convince
Tell
me.
me
And I'm like,
why.
maybe I'm totally missing something. You got to do a lot of humbling too with stuff. It's like, the more I do this, the realize the less I know. And it's like, it's always a process and you never get it right right out of the gate, certainly.
What's your moment of brilliance you can drop on us? That you've clearly learned a lot about this business. What are a couple of Loren's rules?
Rules about, you mean?
Making video based projects.
Sure.
Whether it's commercials, shorts, whatever.
I think like a good rule is like never be afraid to like never cling to anything that like even if you think it's great, never like always be open to like it can all change.
Yeah.
Because I've been like early on a lot too, where you're like, oh, I wrote this thing, this is great. I never, I don't want to. It has to be this way or that way or this joke. And as I've learned, I'm like, don't be so precious with some of your material.
Don't be so precious.
I think there's like someone's gonna always, you know what I mean. There always could be room to like make things better or change it in a way that's just going to be better for the project. Take your ego out of it and just think about what's serving the project the best. That's the fine line of like knowing where your ego is and knowing what is best serving the project.
Yeah. When I write reports overseas, it's one of those projects. And I prefer to write it with two people because typically there's two of us there anyhow and you have to share the work. But my writing partner, Rich, and I will look and we'll write. And I'm better at the field aspect. He's better at the academic aspect. So we'll write and he'll be typing. And then I'll say, do we have to have that sentence? Or is the rest of the message stronger because we like focus it in?
Right.
And then we'll look and we'll think about it. And they aren't our words anymore. It's the report.
Right.
And so it's like, yeah, we'll pull that out. And if we have to have that line, we'll put it in like a secondary note.
Sure.
And then you realize if it's a secondary note, it isn't that important anymore.
Right.
We don't need that.
Right.
Because the reports have to be very clear, very hard hitting,
Yeah, I was going to say, there's probably not a room for, it's got to be very concise, it seems like, for that stuff.
Yeah, concise. 'Cause the commander doesn't want to read passive voice.
You're not writing a
rambling
novel.
things.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, it's 1,000 words, and a lot of those words are boilerplate.
Sure.
And you have to say, this is like the who, where, when, why, how, like the basics
Yep.
of what. Give the context.
I think is great about that is, and this is a good lesson for just any kind of writing, is the more you can simplify something, the better. The less words you can use, the better.
Where were you when you saw it? And then what did I see? And what do I think it means? And then weird ass shit in the bottom, which you shouldn't have any Weird ass shit. And the other thing that's really powerful in the military form of writing is you write what's called a bluff, bottom line up front. It's your headline.
That's like a log line.
It's your lead. Yeah, exactly.
I think that's actually a really good lesson. It's like, and I've learned too. It's like, gosh, because we all our instinct when we're telling some kind of story or writing anything, and I still do this, is I'll overwrite. You overwrite. We all especially early drafts. There's a lot of overwriting. The more you can get like really efficient, and the scene is no more than a page and a half or something. You just boil it down to the essence. Every word is like there for a reason. There's nothing extraneous. That's something that you just get better and better at, and that's a great thing to like. It sounds like what you're doing is like efficiency.
Yeah, and you're explaining complicated things.
Yeah,
so you can't explain all of it. You have to pick one thing and explain it.
Yeah, and nobody wants to read a scene that's like you got a lot of like bulky paragraphs about stage directions or 3 pages of dialogue between 2 characters. Like, just get to the meat quickly and do it in a funny way or whatever your genre is. Right. Yeah, that's it.
What do you think if I was to take all of the words you've written that, are in a script format, what are some of the emotive words you use the most common?
In scripts, like if I'm describing a scene or like dialogue?
Yeah, do you have like go-to words? I like to use the word further, and then I like to use opine, these kind of words that do a certain thing.
I don't have any go-to words, but I do go for is like if I do words like that, I make them I don't use a lot of them. I use them sparingly, and I try to keep things like there's a certain art or beauty to like describing a sentence or describing a whole scene in like a really well-crafted short sentence. Yeah. And that's like, whatever it is, like apocalyptic rain pours down. Like, boom, I got the picture. I don't need like it's raining, the trees are swaying, the light, I just give it to me in like 3 words. The 3 words make 8 words into 3 words.
Yeah. And if you want to get better at that, you read Steinbeck. Because that guy was the master.
Hemingway is
for
that
sure.
kind of stuff where it's just going to like get to the heart of it.
Steinbeck wrote a couple things, and it's like the short sentences, but in the short sentence, there's these 2 words, 3 words that just. So one of the things he talks about in my flypaper youth.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that's beautiful stuff. Where it's like you just get it.
Yeah,
I don't need 3 sentences on it. I got those 2 words, and I just know it.
Yeah,
and if you can populate your script with stuff like that, it's just a quicker read. You get it. And that's an art.
Yeah,
and it's great to do that.
The other 2 words, sentence structure is a little longer, but the point is star rattled sky.
Again. Great example. Right. If you put that in a script, I'm like, that's poetry.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I don't need any more than that. I know if I was a director, I'd know how to film. I know what the look is on that shot. Done.
That's
exactly
so
what
powerful,
I mean, where you can learn how to do that. But we don't start out that way as when you're writing. You're extracting every detail. You're like, you're so precious. You have it in your head, and you're like, you don't need all that shit.
Yes.
Take it out. You're not writing a poem. It's
Loren's rule number 1, don't be so precious.
Don't.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning that. It's like, it's just you always, because you have like, but I got to say this and I got to say that. Kind of don't.
Yeah. Yeah. This is cool, man. We're wrapping it up here. Do you want to ask me any questions at all while you got me on the mic?
Well, we talked about your spy stuff off the air. That was really interesting.
Yeah.
I think I'm good.
Okay, cool.
I always have questions later. I'll be like, I should ask.
That's why we have more episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So you were Loren Tarquinio. You were the spouse of Anna Vocino. You should check out her episode. Easy to find you.
I think a good Twitter or Facebook is
either
fine.
way. It's all your name.
Yeah, it's just my name. Yeah,
and I'll put all that stuff into the show notes so you guys can find it on the breakitdownshow.com. I'm Pete A. Turner on everything, so I'm not hard to find. We encourage you to follow up. We encourage you if you're going to write something, grab Jeff Calhoun at We Fix Your Script. Those guys will help you. 15-minute free consultation. Tell them your idea. See if it's worth their time. And if it's worth your time to get that thing out, then you're on your way, and you can be like Loren, and you can
I don't know if you want to be like
sitting
me.
here at Paty's in 80-degree heat in January.
Eating burnt toast.
Yeah. Thanks again to Paty's. We love it here in Toluca Lake.
Follow us back, Paty's, for God's sake.